Do you have an affinity for Scotland and a love for Spain, but you wonder how the two worlds collide? Well, you're in the right place. This is a NUSUN network in Marbella, and I'm Cassidy, the owner of NUSUN Realty here in Spain, where we help international buyers like you find their first dream home. And today I'm joined by James, and we are going to be going into the Caledonian Society of Spain, what it's about and how you can get involved. Right, James, let's dive in and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell me and tell the audience who you are and what it is you do.
So I'm James McSwiggan. I've been an investor for the last 20 years working for international investment banks and private equity companies. But run a number of different companies, and in Spain I'm the recent founding president of the Caledonian Society of Spain.
And I want to really talk a bit about that as well, but it's not a Spanish accent you've got. Can you tell me where you're from?
No, it's not quite developed into a full Spanish accent yet. So I'm from a town just west of Glasgow called Clydebank, which I'm sure you're well aware of.
I'm from there myself.
So I'm from Clydebank in Glasgow. Moved to London when I was about 19, 20 years old. Worked for the investment banks for about 18 years. And then eventually moved to Spain. We've been here for about 5 years.
And have you been doing the sort of similar investment type work?
So up until recently, we've been still doing the same type of work that we were doing in London. That's changing a lot with AI. We're doing a lot of AI investments at the moment, and that's where our core focus is now. So we run a new company that we've got, which we've invested quite heavily into, called Sprint now AI. And we work a lot in Spain sort of doing that, and hopefully that's something that will help entrepreneurs and business leaders and people moving to Spain as well adapt in their businesses. Okay,
and the Caledonian Society of Spain, can you just tell us a little bit about what is it for a start?
So wherever you go, anywhere in the world, there's always someone from Scotland that pops up somewhere at the bar or at the hotel swimming pool or whatever it is that you are. There's always someone there from Scotland, and it's really apparent to me. I do a lot of work in West Africa, and it was really apparent to me when I'd went for breakfast in a really remote area and seen a guy with a Clyde Broadcasting t-shirt.
Okay.
And it really struck me that the Scots are everywhere, and similar to the Irish as well. Lots of expats, communities with the English too. And I guess when we come to Spain, London's got plenty of kind of different cultures and diasporas and different things going on, and they celebrate that as well. So it doesn't matter if you're Scottish or Jamaican or Indian or wherever you're from, they've got that in London for you. One of the things that I noticed in Spain was, whilst there was groups of people who were kind of meeting up for different things, whether it be Burns Night or St Andrew's Day or just in general watching football or rugby, and trying to, even though they've integrated into Spain, trying to still be passionate about Scotland, they would often miss out in a lot of the good stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
And that sort of became much more apparent to me a bit later living in Spain, because I think in the first year or two, you're really trying to adapt and integrate and speak a bit of the language, and really a bit of the culture, soak in a bit of that, Semana Santa, understand it, all the different holidays, all that sort of stuff. So probably about a year or two ago, I was discussing with some Irish people a combined sort of club with Irish and Scots, where we could celebrate, all those types of things, and it just kind of Celtic club of nations, and it just became a little bit too big, and we thought there'll be too many events, and we'll never be at the bars if the Scots and the Irish and the Welsh. So I think in general, it sort of came from a place that, you know, being in West Africa, seeing that there's societies down there that celebrate this type of stuff. We didn't have anything very similar in Spain.
No.
There's little small pockets in Barcelona, Galicia, Highland dance clubs, different things, but we didn't really have that to bring lots of culture together. It's a Spanish and Scottish culture, and Spain and Scotland have had a long history together, and so it just made sense that it's time. Nothing to do with the World Cup. Scotland managed to get into the first time in almost 30 years, but
Exactly.
and that's sort of how it came about.
Okay. And where would you say? I mean, how long's it been running for now? Do you think?
So we inaugurated on Burns Night 2026 at a Scottish themed place in Malaga called the Caledonian. A beautiful place. Inaugurated there, signed the charter, had a really good turnout from people, and sort of laid out what that year would look like, to really start to pull the events together and bring the community together as well, and that's been fantastic. We had about 55, 60 people at the first inauguration. And we've got some really interesting things lined up for this year. Some really interesting stuff I've found out as well. Some villages in Spain that celebrate a lot of Scottish history and things like that up in Teba, who do the Douglas Games. And so that's in general, that's sort of how we came around this year.
I mean, listen. I mean, I'm asking you these questions as if I don't know, but I'm also on the committee, right? But I'm trying to tease this stuff out of you because you're the president, right? So, but I must admit, I got a real good feeling when we went to the inauguration and we signed the charter, in that amazing venue, the Caledonian. And it was good to get the views of different people who were there. Some were Scottish, some were. They've got an affinity with Scotland. There was people from Canada coming there and places like that. And it felt as if we're doing something good here, and we're at the start of something really good. And I think there's a real desire for that, right? Just in terms of what you said, people have came here. They've got so much going on. They're trying to learn. They're trying to learn about all the stuff happening in Spain, but the whole mixing and connecting with like-minded people from the similar backgrounds is difficult, and this just seemed to bring us all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of the whole thing as well. I think that one thing you notice when you go away or you go live in a different country is that you do get networks of people, and you tend to rely on those networks, and it will tend to be something around either your nationality, your football team, your something like this, or a common sort of sport or something that you play, and that's really useful. It can be really helpful for people to really bed in and feel really integrate a lot quicker, instead of spending such a long time looking for the correct Spanish teacher or looking for the. So it's really interesting that, especially sort of the night of the inauguration as well, to speak to all those people who. Were really quite some people quite emotional actually, as well, because it was really quite a close kind of gathering, but also just setting out, look, this is a club that, for me in particular, I was thinking about the legacy of staying in Spain. We love living here, have no intentions of moving anywhere else. We have 3 children, and how do you bed down some roots that last longer than you? So whilst it's fine to say, it's a shame we couldn't go back to Scotland for Burns Night or for St Andrews Night or for this event or whatever, it's nice to know that we're building on something that there's a legacy there, and I think a lot of people sort of kind of felt that as well that time when we were inaugurating, and that's something quite special. And I think obviously as well, just from a network perspective as well, I think it's a really good it's a good way to integrate.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the Burns Night. We had some excellent speeches, some amazing poetry as well. It's good food. We get the haggis in.
Yeah, we get the haggis in.
And you had to do quite a lot of work to prepare for that, didn't you? I mean, you had to go back to Scotland.
Yeah, I had to fly back to Scotland. So we'd actually had a couple of sponsors of different parts of food, etc. And then the delivery, there had been an issue with the import of the haggis. And eventually I ended up flying to Scotland to go collect a whole bunch of stuff, coming back again, and then obviously, and we were very fortunate that we were also had a Scottish sort of bakers and butchers, the pie shop, who was able to provide us with some top class food. It was great to meet, and it was really interesting kicking that off, because we had to speak to so many people to try to organise these events, whether that was Edrington on Macallan in Madrid, or whether it which some interesting stuff's coming out of that, and hopefully they'll assist us this year, or whether it was meeting the people from the pie shop where we were able to pick up haggis and
I never knew that. I never knew that existed. I never knew they had that here. But now I do.
So I mean, it was so it went down an absolute storm. But it was really good as well, just the process of like talking to so many people and meeting new people as well. I think through that process itself, I just organised that event. I probably met 20 new people.
Yeah.
And then obviously the people at the inauguration as well.
Yeah, and what I liked especially was for the food. I liked the mix of Spanish and Scottish, where we had the haggis empanadas.
So that was, I mean, that was a risk, in all honesty. But I'm not exactly known as the Gordon Ramsay of south of Spain. But I think, I was just trying to mix that up to see what could be produced, and hope for the best, really. But to bring that together to bring both the cultures together, for it not just to be that this is a Scottish society in Spain, this is a Scottish-Spanish society where we'll both, share each parts of those cultures together, and and that can be seen throughout all of Spain. When you look at kind of the Basque region, or the gaitas, the same as the bagpipes up in Galicia, or there's tartan days in the beaches in Barcelona, and you've got Teba down in the Douglas Games. So there's so many, so there's so much that can come together. It just needed a little bit of help to sort of push it around.
Yeah, and I think we get good exposure as well, because you were in the local newspaper.
Yeah, it's probably look, it could have been worse. I'm glad I was in the newspaper for that.
Yes.
Quite a bit of sort of exposure, people reaching out, very quickly on kind of social channels with 100 odd followers, people joining, wanting to find out more, can they get involved, people in different parts of Spain as well, asking what we're doing, and obviously we've been, as the committee, we've been trying to plan that for the year. So, and some really exciting stuff coming up for this year, which I think hopefully solidifies the society and gives it the legs to keep moving, and provide the support, the culture, the traditions, and that shared spirit as well, and moving from there.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned about some of the events potentially coming up. So what are the plans looking like?
So we got general sort of events that we do, which are kind of much more laid back. So these are things like Six Nations rugby, or maybe paddle tournaments, or something on the beach, maybe lunch on the beach, picnic on the beach type thing. And then there's the more sort of formal stuff that is kind of a bit more it's in the calendar. It's, Burns Night, St Andrews Night, a Christmas sort of a day, tartan day as well. And lots of kind of ancillary stuff as well. Like, we're coming across lots of people that we didn't know who lived here, bagpipers, people who are whiskey experts, people who are experts trade between Scotland and Spain, telling us stories about the cask, sherry casks down in Jerez de la Frontera, that make their way to Scotland to get to be sealed up for 15-20 years with whiskey. So such really interesting stuff coming from that, stories and different events that we're just adding bits on. And the big one for this year that we're hopefully will be the anchor for the society will be the Highland Games on the beach.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something I think quite special, because I think it will probably be quite amazing for the Scots who are here, but also probably blow the socks off the Spanish as well when they see people lobbing timber.
These strong men with their kilts and big logs
on the beach. So that's something new to be bringing down here, and hopefully, you know, and we've started some talks with the local junta, the government here, to make sure that we do that all right, and let's hope that becomes an annual thing that really, you know, helps to move this along. And yeah.
I must admit, I'm really looking forward to that. And I've spoke to a lot of people about it, and they're like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Even people that are over abroad, they would actually fly over just to see that.
I can
you know,
imagine.
because, I mean, you get, if you're in Scotland, you can go to Highland Games, right? But the weather's, it's dependent. But to be able to see that on the beach, it'll be a fantastic day out.
We come back from the Highland Games with a tan.
Exactly. It's very unusual. And also you mentioned about Teba.
Yep.
I mean, I think we're going to be doing something up there at some point, right?
Yeah, so Teba host in August every year. They've got a long history with effectively Scottish military type, and it was assistance that was given back a long time ago. There was a sort of let's say an expat community of Scots that were living there, and every year since then they've had this sort of real quite a large Scottish themed party that's been going on, and you know, we found out about